people think that confidence looks a certain way. They think that once I lose the 15, 20 kilos, then I'll feel confident. Once I look this certain way, or once I can speak loudly, then I can feel confident. But really, confidence is a feeling, and it comes from within. And I see so many women who do say, for example, once I lose the weight, then I'll feel confident. And they do end up losing that weight, but they still feel the same way. They don't feel confident. And that's because it is a feeling. It is not how we look, it is how we feel within our bodies.
Hello and welcome to the next episode of our podcast. Today we have a very special guest from Australia, Chantel Keogh. She is confidence and embodiment coach. Chantel, welcome. We are so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. We are so honored to have you on our show. Before we dive into the topic, I would love to know more about you. Tell us more about who you are, what you do, and how you serve the world.
Yeah, so I am a confidence and embodiment coach. I help women to reconnect to their bodies, to tame their inner critic, and reclaim their confidence. And I look at confidence from a very different perspective to other people. I believe that to feel confident means that we need to feel safe in our bodies first. So I teach women to really drop back into their bodies and really start to understand themselves and allow the confidence to flow through.
What major challenges have you faced in building your confidence, and how did you find confidence within yourself?
That's a really deep and multi-layered question. So, how I found confidence within myself really goes back to my journey that I started about 8 or 9 years ago. So, I always had these goals, go to school, then like go to uni and finish uni and get your degree, and then go to your like dream job. And I was ticking all of these boxes on all of the things that you are meant to do, right? And I had just graduated from university and I was in my dream job. And I actually started to notice that within 6 months of being in this dream job, I was working as a publicist in public relations in an agency. And it was the thing that I've been working towards for so long. And 6 months into the job, I started to notice a shift within myself. I started to notice that I was starting to question things that I was doing. I was noticing that my anxiety, because I'd always been an anxious person, but my anxiety started to grow as well. And from that, I really started to notice that my confidence started to drop. And when I say confidence, I would say I was a confident person in terms of being able to kind of just put myself out there and just go for different opportunities. But I was also a huge people pleaser. And I was very worried about doing things wrong or getting into trouble. And so I wouldn't put myself out there because, well, what if somebody judged me, or what if I did this wrong and I got into trouble? So I would definitely hold myself back in so many different areas. But my confidence really started to drop even more so when I got into this job. And it was, in hindsight, a very toxic job that I was in. But it really was the moment that really started to open my eyes up to, okay, this is not the life that I am supposed to live. Like, I've been working my whole life up to this, and now it's just like fallen all apart. What do I do? And that moment there was really the moment that catapulted me into my own personal journey and building my own confidence. So I did all of the things like, running away. I actually moved to Canada for 2 years because I thought, well, if I run away, then all of my problems are going to be solved, right? But that just wasn't the case. And it wasn't until I moved back home and started to really work on myself that I started to peel back the layers and work out, okay, this is who I really am. And really started to reconnect with myself and start to notice what is confidence to me and how can I start to feel confident.
Wow, that's such a beautiful story. But I want to go a little bit deeper into this story. And can you share the moment when you realized, I have to do something? I have to change something. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it would probably been one of my lowest, actually the lowest moment in my life. I was 21. So this happened to me at a very young age, but I was 21, and yeah, I was in this dream job. And not only was I starting to notice that my confidence was starting to drop, but I also noticed that I was starting to feel unwell as well. I had all of these different symptoms that were coming on: chronic fatigue, memory loss. As a 21-year-old, having memory loss was a really big thing, because who at 20 years old forgets what they're going to say or forgets, simple things at the drop of a hat? That's something that somebody much older does. And so I had all of these different symptoms that was just stacking on top of me. And with that was even more so affecting my confidence, because I was forgetting things and not being able to perform my job. And my anxiety was so bad that I ended up in hospital. So that was the moment when I ended up in hospital. Like, I have to do something to change. I can't keep living like this. I need to do something different. I don't know what that is, but what I'm doing right now is not working. And that was the moment where I decided to quit my job, to move across the world, and to start to discover who I was.
Wow, thank you for sharing your inspiring story, and thank you. And I'm really, I'm sorry that you had to go through all that. But usually we ignore everything what's happening inside of us, around us, until we really reach the lowest point in our life. And that's also happened to me. Like when my health was ruined, like I didn't have, I I couldn't do anything. That was the moment for me to really have this wake up call and say, hey, I wanna do something else because what I'm doing right now is not working. And I think a lot of people have that moment. Hey, we need to change something, and we need to change something fast. So I want to know, like, what was the first thing what you did that helped you get out of that state?
The first thing that I did was I started reading self-development books and listening to the podcasts, and really starting to understand, okay, I've got all of these voices that are going on in my head that are telling me that I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, um, I sound stupid, like all of this negative self talk. And so my first step really was to start to notice that these thoughts were happening in my head, and then start to catch myself when I was hearing this negative self talk, and started to change that, because awareness is always the first step, right? And so starting to notice that self talk and then being able to switch it was the first thing that I did. The next thing that I did was, well, I tried so many different things, right? And I did so much mindset work. And what I was noticing, that this mindset work was incredible and it was definitely helping. I didn't have that inner critic wasn't talking as loud. However, it felt like when I wanted to feel confident, I had to put on a mask, or I had to force it, or like fake it till you make it. It didn't feel natural to me. So it wasn't until probably 3 or 4 years ago that I realized that mindset just isn't enough when it comes to us really feeling confident, not having to fake it, but just feeling confident in every cell of our bodies. And so that's when I started to learn about somatics and the mind body connection. And that just like our minds, our bodies also have a memory card. So our bodies remember all of the experiences that we've had. And what's happening is from a very early age, from our first 7 years of our life, our body and our system is taking note of all the experiences that we've had. So, and what it's doing, it's building a foundation of safety. And so it's coding in our system what is deemed for us to be safe and what is deemed for us not to be safe. And that could be something as simple as it's not safe to speak up or to be loud, because as a child, we may have been told to be quiet, stay in your room. And so at that time as a child, it was very helpful for us to have that foundation of safety of not speaking up or staying in your room or doing as you're told, because that allowed us to feel like we were belonging or that we could receive the love and the affection that we needed. However, when we get into our adulthood, that foundation of safety is no longer needed. It's actually a detriment to us, and it stops us from feeling and doing the things that we really want to do. So it wasn't until I started to rewire these old patterns and start to reconnect to my body and release all of these old experiences that I was finally able to embody confidence where it came to me naturally.
Would you say that helped you get through all these times, all these tough times to and still remain confident and still move forward? That all the things that you did helped you to be confident and move forward with your life? Or is there something else that you did?
Yeah, absolutely. All of these steps that I've taken has brought me closer and closer to feeling confident. It's not just one specific thing that we focus on. I like to think of ourselves as like an onion, and we are peeling back the layers. And when we peel back a layer, there's another layer there. However, when we peel back more and more of those layers, the onion's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And that's what it's like when we are starting to build our confidence. It's working on our mindset and how we talk to ourselves. It's working on our environment, like who are we spending our time with? How are we interacting with people? What are we consuming? What music are we listening to? And how is that making us feel? And then dropping into our bodies and starting to reconnect to our bodies. And how does that make us feel? Because our body's always communicating to us.
I love that quote. The body is always communicating with us. I 100% agree with that because very often we think the answer is outside, but it's actually always inside us, and our body always talks to us and always tell us what's wrong and what's going on. Where should we pay attention to? So I want to talk a little bit about misconceptions about confidence. What do you think is a common misconception about confidence people have?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that people think that confidence looks a certain way. They think that once I lose the 15, 20 kilos, then I'll feel confident. Once I look this certain way, or once I can speak loudly, then I can feel confident. But really, confidence is a feeling and it comes from within. And I see so many women who do say, for example, once I lose the weight, then I'll feel confident. And they do end up losing that weight, but they still feel the same way. They don't feel confident. And that's because it is a feeling. It is not how we look. It is not how we, um, like, if we speak loudly or softly, it is how we feel within our bodies. Because confidence means to trust ourselves. And when we trust ourselves deeply, that's when we feel confident.
I think you mentioned also at the beginning of this interview that people need to feel safe, to feel confident. How can we feel safe in our body?
To feel safe in our body, it's really the first thing you can do is starting to check in with yourself and reconnect to yourself. Like I said, our bodies are always communicating to us. So, what I love to teach my clients is asking yourself and checking in with yourself and asking, how am I feeling? And if you can't notice an emotion that you're feeling, do a full body scan. Like, how's your heart feeling? Is it racing? Are your hands shaky or sweaty? Do you have any aches or pains? Because what this starts to do is starts to drop us back into our bodies, because we are so much in our heads and looking externally for the answers, what everybody else is doing, what everybody else thinks that we should do, be, think, feel. And so we need to come back into our bodies and checking in with ourselves and noticing those little aches and pains and how our heart's feeling allows us to really come back in and notice, oh, okay, right now my heart's racing a little bit, or my palms are a little sweaty, or I'm feeling a little like queasy in my stomach. And that can be like a way to really pinpoint how we feel throughout the day. And when we start to notice how we're feeling and when we check in with ourselves throughout the day, we can start to notice when these symptoms come up before we get into complete anxiety. So when we start to notice, oh, I'm starting to feel a little bit anxious, then it's about having the tools in place to then drop back into your body and create safety. And some of those tools are just breathing, taking a deep breath in and sighing out.
Do you have any tools or tips for people how they can do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of them is movement, getting up and moving. That could be dancing, it could be jumping, going for a run, shaking. It's about moving our bodies. That's one of the first things you can do when you start to notice that you're feeling a bit anxious or overwhelmed or self conscious. Breathing is another one. So, taking some deep breaths in through your belly and sighing it out. And another one is going out into nature and just noticing what is out there. Notice the sky, notice the clouds, notice the leaves blowing on the trees. These three things can really help you to drop back into your body and create safety and to feel really calm and grounded.
Thank you so much for sharing your tips um, and your knowledge with our audience. Do you have any personal mantras or affirmations that help you maintain your confidence?
Yeah. So, what I always do is I do something called mirror work. And mirror work is when you sit or stand in front of the mirror and you first speak how you feel, and then you start to talk to yourself like you're your best friend. So, the things I like to say is, I am confident, I am intelligent. When I speak, people deeply listen. I am safe and I am grounded.
So, do you do these affirmations daily or every night or every morning?
Every morning, I have a routine. Being a business owner, having a strong mindset and looking after ourselves is so important. Um, but not just as a business owner, everybody, right? So I have a morning routine that sets me up for the whole day, and that does include movement, it includes meditation, and it includes my affirmations in front of a mirror.
I want to know, do you have any specific process how you help people become confident?
Yeah. Well, when it comes to feeling confident, it is really dependent on everybody's own unique experience. However, what I do really believe to be true is that there are three areas that we need to really focus on when we want to be confident. It's our mindset. We want to work on our mindset. We want to talk to ourselves like we're our best friends. It's embodiment. So we want to start to really drop into our bodies and notice how we're feeling, and to release all of those past experiences that have been holding us back, where we haven't felt safe to speak up or to speak our mind or to back ourselves or to even speak in front of a crowd. And the third thing is our intuition, starting to actually listen to our bodies and trust that we are intelligent and that we can do this. So those are the three areas that I support my clients with: is mindset, embodiment, and intuition.
Thank you so much for the work you do, and thank you so much for helping people become confident. I want to know, where can people find more about you? How can people connect with you? Can you share more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone can find me on Instagram at chantellouise.co, which is ChantelLouise.co. And they can find me on my website as well, which is exactly the same, chantellouise.co.
Thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast. It's our honor to have you here. And everybody else who is listening to this episode, keep working on yourself, because the world does need that love and light inside of you more than ever. I'm sending you lots of love and big hug. Until next time, bye for now.